Hi, I'm Josh.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Al. Now, we understand that every 3 seconds a new podcast is created, and now there's actually one podcast for every 3 people.
So we just wanted to take a minute to say thank you very much for downloading this one, and we hope you enjoy it.
In a nutshell, we realised that some of our film tastes weren't what you'd call conventional. So we decided to talk about them and hopefully shed some light on some films that either didn't get what we felt deserved at the time, or we just wanted to rewatch and talk about them.
You don't have to have seen the film, but if you haven't, you may want to just give it a quick Google.
What's the and that?
Enjoy the podcast. Hello, and welcome to Just Films and That. I'm Josh Hallam. I'm here with Adam Ward.
Hello.
And Al Bollins.
Hello.
We're still recording in lockdown. Are we both okay? Al, you okay?
I'm very well, thank you very much. How are you?
Yeah, good. A bit bored, putting on weight like everybody, but you know. Adam, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I've got to say, I got this this coffee machine for my birthday, and I feel like it's pretty life-changing having this coffee.
Yeah,
I've had coffee for like 2 months.
Put a spring in your step.
Yeah, it really has. So
I miss expensive coffee.
Exactly.
That's really what I want.
So it's delightful having that. I'm starting it's become part of my routine to the past couple of days. Wake up, have a coffee, do like a mini workout because I've been lazy as hell lately. And you know what I did the other day as well. And I feel this is a thing that only grown-ups can do. I bought a pineapple, and I felt like a whole pineapple, and I felt I sliced it up good. I feel only adults can do that. Do you know what I mean? It takes some work to cut up a pineapple well, and
Lockdown life.
Well, that's it. It's like so. I cut it real well, and so now it's in my fridge, all sliced up into neat cubes.
There are some plus points from lockdown. For you, it's that you've cut a pineapple up so damn good.
If anything, I mean that's almost on par with the coffee machine, just being able to do that.
We should say, as we have with the other episodes, that we are doing this over Zoom, so do bear with us with the sound quality. We'll do our best to get it tidied up. Where I am, there might be a little bit of building work outside, so apologies for that, but we'll do our best. Well, as always, we start with a completely random question. Adam, have you got any weird phobias or fears or anything like that?
I feel like mine are quite run-of-the-mill. I've never liked clowns or heights. So a very tall clown would be horrifying to me. Heights and clowns. And, it's not a phobia, but onions in things bothers me.
You've mentioned that before. That really is like a button for you, isn't it?
I like spring onions, nice and fresh.
You've said that before as well.
Yeah, well, that's it. Spring onions, great. But onions.
Al, what about you? Any weird phobias?
I don't really have phobias. I suppose, I don't know if it's a phobia, but if I'm walking through town and I've got my headphones on, I'm very scared of everything at that point because I'm very aware that I can't hear anything. I don't know if that's a phobia or not, but not being able to hear.
The thing with the headphones, if I'm walking around with headphones on and I'm not wearing my glasses, if someone says hi to me or something, I've just not they've not been seen. I think a lot of the times people will think I'm very rude.
Yeah, that's a phobia as well. Like people thinking I'm rude because I've got my headphones on and they've said hello and I haven't. And I've noticed too late, something like that.
Oh, I do that constantly. I think there'll be a lot of people who just think I am rude because I think because I don't wear my glasses all the time, but I can't see stuff from a distance. But I just don't like wearing my glasses all the time. So if someone waves from across the street at me, I don't know who that is. I'm not waving back in case I don't know the person. So I'm
the opposite. I wave anyway. If someone waves at me.
No, see, I can't. I couldn't live with the shame of if they were waving at someone behind me.
Oh, it's happened a lot.
If we were walking down the street with headphones and we walked past a hot dog stand who was frying onions and Al had headphones on, then both of you two would lose it, basically? Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely.
What are yours?
Yeah, what have you got?
Again, no phobias, obviously, because phobias. Well, some people say they have a phobia. What they mean is they just don't like something, don't they? I suppose a phobia is a genuine thing, but I don't like. I have a really weird fear of my teeth falling out. I have dreams of my teeth are falling out, which I know some people analyze that and stuff. I purposely, from what I've seen, the analysis doesn't match what I feel, because actually the reason I'm scared of my teeth falling out is because I had braces for a long time. It was like nearly 10 years altogether. So I think that it's more that than the actual psychoanalysis side of it.
Yeah, because I think like the psychoanalysis thing is like, it's like a vanity thing, isn't it?
It's vanity, or it's you're scared of losing someone.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's because I had so much work done on my teeth when I was a teenager.
That's a good one, actually. I think I'm like that as well. I cracked my 2 front teeth when I was very young, and there's still a slight crack. Like eating an apple, I've always been scared to eat an apple with my 2 front teeth because of the cracks. I think they're fine, but
yeah. So teeth. I don't mind going to the dentist. Obviously, like scrape and polish isn't exactly pleasant, but I'm okay. And I don't like So I don't like eyes, and I don't like people touching their eyes and stuff. So if my partner puts on eyeliner, it's not a phobia. I just kind of wince.
I hate anything in my eyes.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, I remember having to have eye drops, and like you had to be like, my brother and my dad held me down, or my mum put the eye drops in. That's how much I hated it. Even in like the last time I was doing a show, and like I had to have like eyeliner in, I hated it. Like,
what about contact lenses?
I've never had them.
See, I've just got used to them now. I can put them in and take them out.
So basically, if the three of us were walking down the street, a hot dog seller was trying to talk to Al with headphones in, frying onions and touching his eyes, we'd be absolutely useless.
Anyone frying onions and touching their eyes needs to have a real look at themselves. That is not a correct person. Horrifying.
So we're joined by another fantastic guest today. He's a writer, a podcaster, a Twitterer, a Crystal Palace fan, and an all-round general spreader of kindness and joy. Giles Paley-Phillips, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you coping with lockdown? Who you hold up with and all that?
Yeah, well, I'm wife and 2 kids, and it's been all right, actually, I have to say. My wife's a teacher, so she set about putting a timetable in place fairly swiftly.
Yeah.
Even before it officially had happened.
For the kids and you, or just the kids?
Yeah, all of us.
Doing your times tables and...
Yeah, I need one too, yeah. But yeah, so generally we've been all right, actually. I mean, we live in a little town on the south coast called Seaford, which is in between Eastbourne and Brighton. It's quite a sleepy little town. So unless you're in like the main centre of town where all the shops are, it just feels like a Sunday every day, really. I mean, I guess that's the same for a lot of people, but yeah, it doesn't feel like we're necessarily in the midst of a massive pandemic. People are sort of doing their own thing.
I suppose that's good in a way. I mean, I live quite close to a city centre, so it is a little bit like 28 days later when I go to work.
Yeah, I can imagine it's a bit more stark in big city centres. But yeah, so we were lucky in that respect. And obviously the weather's been good. We're lucky we got a garden so the kids can go out and play and stuff. So there are a lot of things that I quite like about it, actually. I mean, I work from home anyway, so that's not changed very much. But yeah, I guess it's a bit of time to reflect on things a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think, there are many aspects that I would, I kind of like to continue, actually.
So you've recently done your lockdown marathon.
Yeah.
How was that? You still sore? You still...
Nah, do you know what? It was all right, actually. I was really worried about being sore because going through, because it's right, so it's from the front door of my house, down the hallway, sort of round the kitchen, through our conservatory and then out to the back gate. And there were a few steps and stuff. And I was worried about trip hazards and things like that. I did nearly trip one time, nearly went arse over tit. But generally it was all right. And I thought I would be really sore because the steps down and going back up and down, I thought I would be feeling it the next day. But actually it was okay. I did the London Marathon about 4 years ago. I was a lot worse after that one. I don't know if it's because you get carried away with the crowd and want to... I don't know. get a Mo Farah moment. I'm going to break the marathon world record. today.
Why haven't I always done this?
Yeah, and then about 10 miles in, you're thinking, fuck. I'm not. Today's not the day I'm going to break the world record.
The first time I've only ever done a couple of 3 or 4 half marathons, and when I finished my first one, luckily I lived about 2 miles from the finish line, but my dad literally had to almost carry me.
Yeah,
and I did that thing.
How many miles is a full marathon?
26.2.
Yeah.
The 0.2 is very important as well.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you why, because the 0.2 for me, right, is coming up the mall in London, the London Marathon, coming up the mall, and then there's a commentator. Yeah. And this commentator was going, come on. And you sort of assume it's for you, right? But no, it was for this guy called Pete, who was running behind me with a postbox outfit on. And I thought, no way, I'm not going to be beaten by Pete, who's done the same. With a whole massive postbox. He'd done the whole thing in a postbox. I thought, no, there's no way that Pete is going to beat me. So I had to pick up the pace. And that last 0.2 of a mile was the worst bit.
Did you beat Pete? You rub it in his face?
I beat it. I beat him. Yeah. Fuck you, Pete.
So how do people donate? If they want to
you can go to a Just Giving page. I think it's Just Giving /crowdfunding /Giles Paley-Phillips.
We'll be sure to tweet out a link. Please do donate.
Just to say, it's all going to NHS charities together. So
but which is needed more than ever. Let's be honest. So that's a great thing you've done. You're quite active on Twitter. Do you have any kind of advice for anyone out there in lockdown?
I think it's that. I mean, the great thing. I mean, obviously, lockdown is crap, and it's not. It's we're all feeling it a little bit. But I think the fact that it's happened now, when we're at a time where technology is at our disposal, that where we can still continue to connect. I mean, if you've got to think about 10 years ago, if this happened, we wouldn't have had. I mean, like tonight we're talking over Zoom. I think that's the thing that's really stuck with me a little bit, is how great it's been to have those outlets, having Twitter and Facebook and Instagram or whatever, and things like Zoom and Skype and whatever, that we can still stay connected. So I think that's the thing I would say to most people, is just keep connected, keep in touch. Because I think, obviously we are apart from each other at the moment, but we are still all in this kind of thing together. So that would be the main thing I'd say.
As dull as those family quizzes might be, it's good to keep them going.
Well, do you know what we do one with a load of our friends every couple of weeks, and I actually really enjoy. I've been hosting them as well. I've been really enjoying. It's actually something I quite like to carry on doing.
So some of them are great. We did a Harry Potter one.
Oh, okay.
Like the guys hosting were dressed as Dumbledore and Professor Umbridge, and they really went all out on their costumes. So like when people put the effort in, it really makes a difference.
And finally, since we've answered it, do you have any weird fears or phobias?
Quite a few.
To give you an idea, Al's was walking down the street with headphones on and missing what someone says to him. Adam's was you don't like clowns, but also it was like onions, hard onions. And mine was
crunch.
Yeah, onion crunch. Onion crunch. And mine was my teeth falling out.
Yeah, the teeth falling out. I have a lot of dreams. Do you dream about your teeth falling out? Yeah, I have that all the time. I think it's because every time I go to the dentist, I have to have something done.
Oh,
yeah.
Which is, and I don't think, like, my wife never has anything done, but we eat the same. We both brush our teeth the same.
Yeah,
way. I think it's genetic.
Well, we'll move on to this week's film, which Giles, you've kindly picked for us, which is David Lynch's Lost Highway from 1997, I think.
Yeah.
And as ever, big spoiler warning, so please do watch the film, or if you're not bothered about spoilers, carry on listening. Giles, what's it about? Why did you pick it?
Okay, so I picked it because it's kind of, out of all of David Lynch's work, I think it's one of the ones that kind of flies under the radar a little bit. Not that he's a prolific filmmaker by any means, but one of the reasons it stuck with me, because there's a cinema in Brighton called the Duke of York. They used to do late night showings, and me and my friend, I guess it was sort of just post college years. We went to one of the late showings, and it was Lost Highway. We didn't have a clue what it was. We used to just do that. Just go and watch a movie. Didn't know what it was really. Just thought, oh, that looks quite interesting. It had Bill Pullman in it. It looked quite sort of dark, and I think we both had a bit of a thing for Patricia Arquette. Yeah, I think it was just that sense that it was a late night showing. It was so creepy. I mean, I remember it being creepy, and it was the first film, I think, although we were sort of, I guess at that time, particularly for college, really ravenous for watching movies. And, it was a lucky time for us. We kind of, during college, it was the whole kind of Tarantino burst onto the scene. There was, things like Usual Suspects. That 90s, that sort of era of the 90s was really, so many sort of iconic movies came out. And I just think, just the whole concept around it being such an art house movie, and really an art house movie filmmaker. And it was kind of the first time I really come out of a film and we just talked about the film for hours afterwards, trying to dissect it and figure out what the fuck happened in it. And I guess if you guys have seen it, you're probably also thinking, what the fuck happened in it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I suppose moving on from that then, Adam, I'll say I hadn't seen it before. I don't know if I'd even heard of it, to be honest with you. I think I might have done. The title's one of those titles, it sounds quite familiar. What about you, Al? Had you seen it?
No, I hadn't seen it. I knew of it just from sort of like scanning through IMDb for David Lynch films, basically. So I hadn't watched the film, but I knew of the film. But I purposely kind of, like most time, if I've not seen a film, I don't want to look anything up until I've watched it.
Yeah.
So I don't so nothing's ruined for me. So even in the opening credits, as soon as I saw Richard Pryor, Henry Rollins, Gary Busey, I was like, this seems like a film I would want to watch.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I was watching it and I missed the Richard Pryor credit, and then I saw him. I was like, is that Richard Pryor?
Yeah, so it was like he was heavy. Obviously, he was severely disabled at that point with Parkinson's. So and that, like you say, all these kind of people you think, shit, like Henry Rollins, like what the hell, And I know that a lot of those guys have got sort of small parts in it, but I just and the soundtrack as well is fantastic.
Oh, the soundtrack, that was one of my favorite things about it.
What about you, Al? Had you seen it?
I'd never seen it, I'd never heard of it, but on the cast, the opening sort of cast list and credits and stuff seemed to go on forever. But I was watching it and I thought, this is I've never heard of it, have no idea about it, but I thought this is a really strong cast for a film I've never heard of. But yeah, no, I don't think I'd definitely not seen it, I'd not heard of it, but I absolutely loved it though.
Oh, did you?
I spent a lot of the film sort of like this going, I don't really know, I don't understand what's going on. Have I missed something? Should I have been paying more attention here? But I feel like that was kind of the thing, wasn't it? It was purposefully confusing and dark, and like you say, the soundtrack with Rammstein and Marilyn Manson and all that. I really, even though I didn't know what was going on for large sections of it, I didn't deter me from how much I enjoyed it.
I think that's a pretty good sign of a film if you can actually say the words, I didn't know what was going on, but I still enjoyed it.
But I thought it was me. I was like, have I missed something here? Am I stupid here? But I didn't feel like I did.
No, and I think that's the reason why I loved it when I first saw it. And like I say, when we were discussing and trying to dissect it afterwards, and still to this day, me and my mate Dave, we still talk about this movie. This and Mulholland Drive as well, actually, which was the next film we did after that. Are films that you have to interpret it in whatever way you want to interpret it. David Lynch is never going to tell anybody what it's about or what the concept is, because he just doesn't do that with his movies. And so it's up to us as the viewers, and that's the thing I love about it, is the fact that it's entirely down to our own interpretation of it.
He doesn't patronise his audience, does he? He kind of puts something out there and goes, "Well, you decide." What about you, Adam? Oh, sorry, Adam. Go on.
Where Homer's watching Twin Peaks instead. Brilliant. I have no idea what's going on, and that's kind of what.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
That sums of David Lynch up perfectly.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going on, but that's why I was so intrigued by the film, because I spent the whole film trying to figure out what was going on, and you never really get that payoff of here's the big twist that's everything revealed. And I think that's what made the film so interesting, because I spent the whole of it just trying to figure out what was going on. The first part of it felt like it was like a picture play in those long pauses between dialogue. And then when he switches, I was just there trying to figure out, how has that happened? Why has that happened? Is it to do with this strange man? I suppose there's so many. I feel like the film brings so many more questions. But I suppose as a filmmaker, that's what you want. You want people to ask. If you're not, people aren't talking about the film afterwards, then what's the point in making the film?
Yeah, and I think you got to remember what David Lynch's roots are. He was an art student. He made art movies. Eraserhead was as an art project. It took 4 years to make. You have to kind of remember what I was talking to my wife about this day. His roots were in that, and so he's, it's like seeing an art exhibition. His movies are like that. Not all of them, but certain movies of his art.
Normally, when we talk about a film, we would always do like a plot synopsis, but it's quite difficult with this. Not because of spoilers, because we always warn people, but it's that thing of like, well, what do you say? It sounds a bit mad if you're like, well, he's a saxophonist, and then he might have killed his wife, and then he's another guy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the film starts with with Bill Pullman's character, who is, like you say, is a musician who lives in a fairly nice kind of suburban kind of area, and a strange guy. We hear a voice on an intercom, don't we, at the beginning? And then he starts to get, I guess he's you could tell straight off that he's just obviously quite possessive about his wife. And then they start receiving sort of videotapes of their house, and being monitored and filmed, and then they sort of and it sort of spirals from there, really. And there is a sort of slow burn of this intensity around their relationship, and I guess an underlying fixation that she might be cheating on him and all that kind of stuff. So I guess that's the first part of the movie, is all around that. And like you say, there is a kind of brutal, she's brutally murdered, and then as he kind of gets convicted and put in prison, and that's when suddenly there's the rug's pulled out from underneath you, and suddenly, like, overnight he's transformed into a completely different character.
Yeah,
because the guards acknowledge, oh my god, this isn't Bill Pullman in the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. They're with us. Yeah, we're going to work it out, learn it.
that helps, doesn't it?
It made me feel better, but then you still never got an answer.
In the beginning of the film as well, I always think this in films in general, but he had a very nice house to say she doesn't work, and he makes like industrial jazz.
I agree. I assume that he was just an in-demand,
Like
an in-demand
top saxophonist.
Yeah, but they did have a nice property. You're right.
Very nice.
Unusual though.
I was quite split on this. I was watching it, and like you, I was a bit like, I strayed between wondering what it was all about and also being a bit like, I don't follow it. And it finished, and my partner said to me, "What did you think?" And I was like, I'm not really sure. But one thing I will say about it is that I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Like whether I think I thought it was quite good. There was bits I had a problem with, but not because of the film, probably because of my interpretation. But I've come away from it literally going, yeah, but what was it about? Like,
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time. I watched it I watched it about 2 or 3 days ago, and I spent the last few days like, what was it about though? Like, it is quite intriguing, and that I think that's one of the things, to go into things we like about it, that I did like, is that it did challenge you, and it didn't pander to you, and it kind of let you go, you decide, and so that is something I did really like about it, as well as the things we've already talked about, the soundtrack, the way it looks. It looks very kind of cool but minimalist, but very bleak. Bleak. It's a neo-noir, isn't it? So it's that kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, what about you, Adam? Like, what sort of things did you like about it?
Yeah, the soundtrack was huge for me.
I
just think throughout, I love that kind of like 90s industrial metal of like Manson and Nine Inch Nails, especially because I haven't really listened to that music for a while.
Yeah.
So that was nice to watch this film and have all that music that I kind of have dipped out of over the years. So that was a big thing for me. Like a part of this film kind of felt like this was just David Lynch's excuse to get Patricia Arquette naked as many times as possible.
I mean,
that
yeah.
a lot in this film, doesn't it? But no, I enjoyed the film. Yeah, but I think that whole thing of being so confused. I was always wanting to know what was coming next. That was one of the best things in it for me, because I was the relationship between Patricia Arquette's character and the like morphing lead man. I thought that was the most interesting part of it, because it was that thing of, does she even exist?
Is she two people? That kind of, yeah.
As well? Does she know who he is? Because at times it felt like she didn't know who he was. At times it felt like she did know who he was. What's the significance of the other man? Because he seemed to have all the power within it. And then the older, like, mob boss guy, he seemed to have some form of relationship with this unknown man too. There was so many questions, but I think that's what made me so intrigued by it, because I couldn't figure out what things are. And I always like to have an understanding of where we are in a film, but I really like that I didn't have that understanding. I feel like it's the kind of film where I need to watch it several times to know different things, because there was things I kept.
It doesn't get any clearer though.
And, that's it. I can't imagine it. It's like there's little things I kept focusing on. Like they really made a big thing of the number plates of cars, and they all different numbers on. And I was thinking, what's the significance of these numbers on the number plates? But I feel like it's all, at times it feels like, oh, these are probably just red herrings to make you focus on these things, which aren't really of any kind of relevance. But the way it's shot makes it feel like they should be of relevance.
Giles, did you get a chance to watch it again, or did you just come into it having already seen it quite a few times?
I have watched it a lot of times. I actually, obviously talking about it now, I do want to go and watch it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the movie. I've watched it, and actually, do you know what? I've got it here. I've got the 2-disc special edition.
Oh
wow!
But actually, to understand it more at the time, I actually bought the screenplay.
Oh wow!
Wow!
It didn't help me understand it anymore, but it's got some nice like kind of shots and stuff from the movie in it. But yeah, because I was so in love with this film, I just kind of sort of wrapped. And do you know what? It made. I was aware of David Lynch's work before. I'd watched Twin Peaks. When I was a kid, I watched Elephant Man. I was a big fan of that, and some of his other stuff. But it really made me delve into him and his work. I mean, I remember buying biographies of his to find out more about where, and then I started going watching Blue Velvet and Wild at Heart and all these other movies of his, and really soaking up everything that he did. I just became sort of a bit obsessed with David Lynch after watching Lost Highway.
Is there many differences in the screenplay and the film? Is it?
No, it's pretty verbatim.
much, yeah.
Actually, I don't think they cut a lot from the screenplay, to be honest. Yeah, but I remember reading it again and thinking, actually, it could be a great novel. Even as even in script form, it's actually and actually it kind of works as a novel, because you can play around with. Shifting the time and all those kind of things.
You could even do it from first person, couldn't you?
Yeah.
I think the novel thing would really work. I think especially in kind of understanding the frame of mind of characters. It's like, so I've always enjoyed all the Harry Potter books and films, but there's certain things in the books where where it's all described what he's thinking and feeling that you don't get in the film.
Yeah, you just can't do it, can you?
Yeah, so that would be a really interesting take on this film, understanding the mind of that lead role.
Interesting. I just wondered if any of you had any theories, because I think a lot of things we always thought, that my friend Dave and I that we used to watch it, was that perhaps the two timelines, the two stories, the two halves were actually parallel to each other, and that those two lives were, she was living two sort of separate lives. That was kind of a concept that I didn't know if any of you guys have had any kind of thoughts about, like, what, conspiracy theories about what actually is going on.
Al?
Probably nothing new or original, but I don't know. I just got the impression it was Bill Pullman the whole time, forgetting who he was.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably not an original thought, but that was kind of my first thing there. But like one of the main things I liked, and it's sort of like, it's the same with most of the art I like I like not having an answer. I like not being able to come up with one. I like not being given one. Like a lot of the plays I like are like surrealism and Dadaism. They're my favorites, and they're like something's given to you, and what you do with it is entirely up to you. So yeah, that's kind of the only theory I came up with. But like, I wasn't really looking for one, to be honest. I was just enjoying it as it happened. Do you know what I mean?
I was reading about what David Lynch himself said, and I've got it here. He said it was possibly he might have alluded to it being something called psychogenic fugue, which says it's a form of disassociation where a person temporarily loses awareness of their identity, including memories and personality. So it's almost like it's similar to what Al said, which is they are the same person in a kind of, I suppose a kind of almost crude comparison might be something like Fight Club, spoilers for that if you've not seen it, where they turn into each other because they are sharing one body, but they are the same, I guess.
Also like a fantasy world that he'd created his own.
Yeah, it's that thing, isn't it? Of he goes from being kind of a bit older, and a little bit. He's not in amazing shape. He's fine, but then he turns into kind of a better looking, younger, slimmer guy. So I don't know, maybe that kind of element of, and his wife and him kind of seem a little distanced, and this other guy has this passionate affair with the blonde Patricia Arquette. So maybe it's something like that. Maybe, like you say, it's a fantasy type thing.
Particularly when you consider the way that Eddie is interpreted by everybody else, especially the police. They're always like, "Oh, look at this guy! Look at all the girls he's getting constantly." There's all this kind of jealousy around that character because of kind of the role that he has. I kind of, in some ways, I kind of interpret it as sort of like he's kind of made a deal with the devil, and the creepy guy who keeps seeing is kind of like a devil character, and that's why there's a line when he's on the phone where he says something to him like about when you've killed somebody in like Eastern culture, you will be eventually killed yourself, but you don't know when that's going to be. And it kind of felt like him being Eddie was him being able to get away from what he's done, but that it's still coming for him at some point. And that was kind of the relevance of that other character.
That actor who plays the mystery man actually thought he was the devil. I'm sure I read that actor said.
Yeah, I think I've read something.
Yeah, he said, I'm the devil. That's who I am. Because
he's just an omnipresent kind of figure.
Yeah, because he's in two places at once. He seems to be able to appear and disappear, and he's obviously some sort of. Although he also seems to be a person because he asks who that guy is. Again, it's open to interpretation, isn't it?
He's the act. I think it's Robert Blake, is it?
I think so.
He said himself, he was like, I stopped asking David Lynch questions because he was like, I'm just enjoying the mystery of it, and he was like, I got so much more out of it when I stopped asking what's going on, and I just let loose, really.
The guy who knew who he was, in some ways, I kind of felt like he might not be an actual person because he was the guy who Bill Pullman was jealous of, and he got killed so easily in that really unusual way.
Head table guy.
Yeah, like face stabbed.
Or maybe it's that kind of empty, kind of vapid Hollywood thing of, that's one of James's friends. Like, I don't know, but I'm going to pretend I do because, like,
I suppose, like in like American Psycho.
Yeah.
I saw him last week. We had dinner.
Yeah, Paul Allen. Yeah. I don't know. Have you got any more recent theories, Giles, about what you think it might be about?
No, I think you're right. I think that there's this sort of concept about the maybe like a multi-personality disorder or something like that. I think that's an interesting take on it for sure. But like you say, I think it's just kind of watching it and just letting it wash over you and just kind of taking it for what it is, which is,
similar to what Al said, and Adam, it reminds me of, so we all, the three of us met at university on a drama degree, so we've seen a lot of really, really good and a lot of really, really bad theatre, and it kind of reminded me of a good theatre piece where you sit down, you watch it, and then you talk about it afterwards, and that, I really like that. It was thought-provoking and challenging, I suppose, so that's something. One thing I did want to ask you is, what do you think happens at the end? Because he starts convulsing and screaming and looks kind of like he's turning back into someone else. Is that it, or is it just Again, is it just that is what's happening? So there you go.
Well,
yeah.
I guess could be all those characters colliding together, and actually he's driven him to insanity, perhaps. I guess that's what I kind of sort of took from him. That he's actually he's just lost it.
Do any of you?
His head was sort of like twice the size, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It kind of morphed.
It reminded me of like when you kind of see a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type transformation in those kinds of films, which again leads on to the split personality idea, I suppose.
Or in Terminator 2 when T-1000 is melting.
Yeah, or the other thing it reminded me of is when anyone turns into an agent in the Matrix. I mean, do either of you guys have any theories on what the ending means?
I don't like I say. I didn't really think about it at that point. I just let go, and I don't know, nothing fresh or original I can think of.
I was hoping he was transforming into a different like iteration of someone else, but I kind of felt like the thought I got was this is kind of his world completely collapsing now.
I thought at the end he might have turned into Patricia Arquette, just to be like your head, just blow your head off and be like, what's going on type thing.
I thought Patricia Arquette's character was the most interesting one because you could never really figure her out.
She wasn't good, she wasn't bad.
No, and I guess with Bill Pullman, she was just sort of slightly timid, obviously because of their relationship, quite timid and scared. And I guess when she was the blonde Patricia Arquette, she was more, voluptuous and sensual and more kind of forthcoming, and was very much leading the relationship with Ralph Zargetti's character. So I think it was. She was very interesting. Yeah, I think her. I mean, it was a brilliant performance of her. I think.
Oh, it was brilliant. She kept you guessing when she was the blonde one as well, because there was loads of times where I was like, she's setting him up here, and then she didn't, and you go, okay, she likes him, and then she sets. You think, oh, she's going to set him up again.
Yeah.
So she was really good in this.
I thought Balthazar Getty was really good, and I've not seen him in much. I've only really seen him in. Was he in Charmed? And I think he was in. I know he was in Judge Dredd. I know him more because he's part of the famous family, the Getty family.
Yeah,
I thought he was excellent in this. I thought he was really good. Yeah. Well, I suppose, is there anything? I'll ask the chaps first. I'll ask you first, Adam. Is there anything you'd change about it? Anything you kind of didn't like?
No, because I think because it's so unusual, and that's what drew me to it. I think anything I would change would be to make like her, but then that's part of the joy of the film. I think if you would change things and make things more obvious, then you're going to lose a lot of the film's charm. Maybe it was a touch slow in the beginning, but I like that Pinter-style dialogue. I think that's what made it really interesting. And I just loved Bill Pullman's grey jacket.
Yeah.
That grey jacket was fantastic.
Bill Pullman is... I mean, I think he's a really underrated actor, actually.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been, I've watched The Sinner more recently, and he's fantastic in that as well.
I've only really seen him in kind of Independence Day.
But even in that, like, he's just got an edge to him. It's a bit like Michael Keaton's got that edge to him. It's like, they do occasionally do commercial movies, but there's a darkness underneath that they occasionally let out. And I think, I think you're right. I think that Pinterest kind of style at the beginning, where it's very drawn out, very little dialogue, a lot of smoking in smoky rooms. I think he's absolutely exceptional in those bits.
Was it anything you personally would change, Al, or?
I'll say no, because like I say, I really, really loved it. And anything I would pick would probably be nitpicky. But on Bill Pullman, maybe I thought because how long was he out of the film for? It felt like a long time. Sometimes I did miss him. I really enjoyed his performance.
Yeah, I think there was more intrigue with his character than
but I wouldn't change much. Like I say, soundtrack brilliant, the style, the look of it. I think Patricia Arquette and Bill Pullman were absolutely superb together as well, individually and together.
I'd have liked to have seen Marilyn Manson and Twiggy's cameos be bigger.
Yeah. They were just in a porn film, weren't
You
they?
were just in the
Yeah.
porn.
Does he?
Did he fall on the floor or something?
Yeah.
It's like a
It looks like Manson got killed in the porno.
Yeah. It might have
Well,
been a snuff.
I think it might have been a snuff movie.
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it was. I think that's why the mob boss character liked it so much.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the kind of general critical reception of the film at the time. We'll try and get an idea of where we think we're going to place it in terms of the pantheon of underrated, underappreciated, etc. So on IMDb, it gets a 7.5 out of 10. And on Rotten Tomatoes, I think this is quite a strange one. It gets 87% from the audience, but 60% from the critics, which I think that's quite a big gap in terms of those two things. I'll come to you first, Giles. I think we know what you're going to say, but is it underrated?
I think it is, and I think compared to some of his other work, it is. I mean, David Lynch is not. He's never going to make commercial movies. I mean,
No.
He attempted to make one commercial movie, which I guess was Dune, and that failed miserably. And so he's always kind of done his own thing, and I think he probably doesn't give two monkeys what anyone thinks of his work.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I like about him. But I think from a critical point of view, I think it probably was misunderstood, which, and we've kind of alluded to some of the reasons probably why. But that is interesting that actually from an audience point of view on Rotten Tomatoes, that actually it's more loved than perhaps the critics gave it credit for. But then, critics are often wrong about things. I think Fight Club didn't get particularly well received when it came out. It's one of my favourite movies. So.
Well, we talked to Clarice Lockery, she was our guest last week, who's the Independent's film critic, among some other things. She was saying she finds that idea of the critics really funny, as if like everyone, the film is presented to a room full of people at once, and they are like a machine, like the machine out of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and they just go, it's rubbish.
Yeah.
And like, take it away, like, and that kind of thing. Adam, what about you? Is it underrated? Is it underappreciated?
I'd probably say both, because I think things like Twin Peaks and Mulholland Drive are so kind of
Blue Velvet as well, yeah.
Yeah, whereas this I didn't know a great deal about. So yeah, I definitely say both underrated.
Al, what about you?
Yeah, definitely underrated, underseen, underappreciated. I think I'm surprised that it got a higher audience.
Yeah, I would have thought the critics would have kind of loved it, and the audience would have been like, pretty much the other way around, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, brilliant. Well, we'll call that one. We'll call that one underrated. Put it in the ever-growing underrated pile. So, thanks very much for coming on, Giles. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you feel that we
enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it's lucky to chat about that movie again. It's one that I bring up in conversation with Mo. But when you sort of say to people, they say, I want to watch something I haven't seen before. It's one of those ones I always sling in the pile and say, check it out. Most people, it's really nice to you guys because you've sort of appreciated the movie. Not often when I've suggested it to people are like, no, that was terrible. What is?
I'm
Don't
sitting
ever suggest any movies to me again.
Yeah, but it's not a. We're having a night in on Saturday. We're going to get a pizza. Have you got any films?
Yeah.
It's like, do you like men turning onto other men and Patricia Arquette with no clothes on?
Yeah.
But excellent. So, is there anything we can watch out for you? I believe you had a book out early this year. Was it 152 Days?
Yeah, it just came out just before it went into lockdown, which is not the best timing, but it's a sort of semi-autobiographical verse novel about a boy who's sort of coping with a mum who's going through end of life care, and it's a slight coming of age story, but dealing with a difficult situation. It's written in verse as well, so it's quite an unusual book. But it's come out with Unbound, and it's been really well received so far. So I'm really, really happy with it.
Excellent. And is that available all the usual places?
Yeah, all the places. Online, or hopefully when bookshops open again at some point, we can get it from there.
Yeah, and I believe obviously you've got your own podcast, Blank Pod. Be sure to check that out. Have you got any? I particularly enjoyed the Gary Lineker one.
Yeah, Gary was great. We actually got to go to Gary's house as well, which was very nice.
Lots of Leicester memorabilia.
No. I mean, he's got a very, very nice house. Gary is a really lovely guy, actually. And in fact, everyone.
I'm so relieved.
Yeah, I know, it's funny, isn't it? Because we always, I guess, with most of the guests, you kind of hope they're going to be. I mean, we've been really lucky at all the. I mean, we've done 70 odd episodes now, and everyone's been so nice. And what's great about it, and then as you know, as podcasters, is you get people. Generally, people they haven't got anything to sell. They just want to come and chat to you, and you know, it's that kind of what I was saying earlier, and it's that connection with people, and you get to know people a little bit better than you do when you watch them on regular stuff when they've only got like 45 seconds to tell you about their latest program or whatever. You get an hour with someone. It's quite special, really.
I don't think I would have ever seen this film either. Never heard of it, so.
I think that's what makes it interesting. I think it's a nice way to chat to somebody as well if they've got a film that they're passionate about, and it kind of gives you an insight into them as a person, which is nice too.
Yeah,
it's true, and it's a bit like, I guess, when you think like Desert Island Disc, which is, you know, where people they talk about their lives and everything, and it's often sometimes the difficult moments, which, I mean, our podcast we talk about difficult moments, but you intersperse with like their favorite songs, you know, it's great. I think, and movies, you know, even someone who isn't into movies, they still got a favorite movie, haven't they? So
well, there we go. Another really interesting episode there. I mean, that was really kind of that's certainly one of the most out there films we've done. I don't know. I thought it was really interesting to kind of pick everyone's brains. I certainly actually wasn't sure everyone would like it.
Did you like it, Josh? I couldn't work out.
It's a strange one. So there was bits of it I thought was I kind of didn't get to it in the actual bulk of the podcast, but I really enjoyed the fact that I went away thinking about it. There was bits that I thought were a little slow, but other than that, it was really thought provoking. Is what I will say. It did what it absolutely intended to do. I think is the sign of why it's successful in its attempt, I suppose.
Yeah. I think whether you hated it or you loved it, I loved it. But whether you hated it or you loved it, like you said earlier, you can't really switch off from it.
It's almost beyond rating.
Yeah.
It's almost like it doesn't matter. It's not there to be rated. It's there to be like make you think.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it for this week. If you do want to get in touch with the pod in the meantime, it's filmsandthatpod@gmail.com. The Twitter is @films_that. And we're on Facebook and Instagram as filmsandthatpod. Hopefully we'll have some more episodes for you at some point. But until then, we hope you're keeping well in lockdown. Please do stay connected. As Giles said, please do stay in touch. Al Bollins, thank you very much.
Toodle pip.
Adam Ward, thank you very much.
Pratra.
And it's a big thanks from me, and cheerio. Hello, Josh here again. I just wanted to take another little minute to say thanks again for downloading the podcast. It really is greatly appreciated. If you do like it, then please like, subscribe, and rate us wherever you get your podcasts. Special mentions go to Lee for the music, Luke for the logo, and Abby for producing, editing, and generally putting up with us. If you'd like to get in touch with the podcast, it's filmsandthatpod@gmail.com. Thanks once again. Cheerio.